Hello you and all. This is Editor Jellybean here, just to say this video is more like an audio program rather than a visual one, so feel free to stick it on in the background whilst you're doing whatever you're supposed to be doing right in this moment in time. And without much ado about nothing, hello you and all. As you all may have been aware, a certain video game trailer has dropped recently, that being called Formula One 2021, the first of the Codemasters Formula One series of games that is published by Electronic Arts. And what they announced in the deluxe edition of Formula One 2021 is that you can have 7 drivers that are signable but who are iconic names to Formula One. And this got us thinking at Fadoodle version 2, who are these 7 drivers going to be? Because at this point in the game's life cycle, they have already scanned the drivers, they've already made the models, they're just working on the fine-tuning the formula, is a better way to phrase it. So, in this video, we will be predicting all 7 of these drivers. So buckle up, it's time for a drive down memory lane. Firstly, we have Michael Schumacher. Yes, the 7-time world champion who is currently, as of the time of recording this video, joint equal to Lewis Hamilton in terms of championships only, although which driver do you think is better is a discussion you may want to have in the comments section below. However, I believe Michael Schumacher will be one of the 7 legends for a number of reasons. Firstly, he is extremely iconic. Heck, he is so iconic that people who don't even follow Formula One know who Michael Schumacher is, especially in Germany. He even has a corner named after him at the Nürburgring. But more realistically, he has already had his face scan and body scan put into the official video game series because the Formula One 2020 video game deluxe edition was centered around the German Michael Schumacher, in which you had 4 classic cars, a bunch of apparel, and his face scan. And his audio name was also put into the selection pool for players the world over. Not to mention, who would not want to sign Michael Schumacher to go up against his son, Mick Schumacher, who is driving in the Haas this season? Surely that has got to be a unique selling point that would keep gamers engaged at least for one season in my team, if not many more. The next 3 drivers on this list are all very much the same reasoning and justifications. So I'm going to be discussing them collectively in this list. They are Jenson Button, Felipe Massa, and Nico Rosberg. Now, why those 3 specifically? Well, for those of you who are not avid fans of the Formula One game franchise, the in-game character models that you see were fully made, as in properly, not just the eyes and nose and mouth and skin colour, from 2015 onwards, when the Formula One game series made the jump from the 7th to the 8th generation of console video games systems. However, this also starts back in the 2014 season, meaning that if any driver has raced throughout the majority of the season from 2014 onwards, most likely they will have a face scan and a body scan as well, meaning Codemasters don't have to go through such efforts to bring them into their studio, do the photo shoot with them, and then model it into the game. They can just take the already existing asset and maybe upgrade the amount of tries on the models for the next generation hardware. These three drivers, Button, Massa and Rosberg, have all fallen into this conundrum. Plus, they are very iconic drivers. Nico Rosberg being the 2016 World Champion, Jenson Button being the 2009 World Champion, and Felipe Massa being the 2008 champion for 20 seconds, approximately, or at least that's what I've been told. In addition, they already have classic cars in the game. Jenson Button has his 2009 Brawn and his 2010 McLaren. Felipe Massa has his 2007 Ferrari and his 2010 Ferrari, but Nico Rosberg has nothing. And I feel that will change. As a result of the leaks that emerged just a couple of days before the Formula One 2021 video game's launch trailer, where they revealed Breaking Point, the leak documented Breaking Point, it leaked cooperative career mode, it also leaked about how the classic cars will be aiming to have a more modern focus on machines made from the 2010s. How new are they willing to go is a mystery, but a good estimation would be 2016, as that is the last year to use the quote-unquote previous aerodynamic style of cars, the very elongated, skinny, and not very intricate aerodynamic cars, which Mercedes started their dominance in. Thus, I feel Codemasters would add one, if not two, of those Mercedes into Formula One 2021, alongside some other cars, but we'll touch upon those in this video. And thus, that is why I think all three of them will be added in. All you have to do with Jenson Button, Felipe Massa and Nico Rosberg is update those models, and they would fit in. Not to mention the Formula One 2021 mod for the 2020 game that has been circling around online recently and has been fully complete, has demonstrated that you can take a face model from an older game, put it into the current one, and it works absolutely fine. Take, for example, Fernando Alonso at Alpine. If the mod is installed correctly, which is important to bear in mind, then you will see the Fernando Alonso face and body. Yet, that model has to have come from Formula One 2018. And considering that 2018 is just a slightly evolved 2017, which 2017 is a slightly evolved 2016, it wouldn't be a stretch to think Codemasters would at least have half of their numbers reusing old assets for iconic drivers. At least in my opinion, anyway. So, those are the assets I feel Codemasters would reuse. I personally do not feel they will also use the Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna driver models and skins, because that would be perceived by the community as lazy when you factor in you could just buy the old games for dirt cheap prices in a second-hand condition and be able to experience all the luxurious content that is on offer. So I predict the following three drivers are going to be completely new and have not received a quote-unquote modern driver scan, with the first of these drivers being a fellow Brazilian, and fun fact, is the last South American to ever compete for the World Drivers' Championship all the way to the checkered flag and had a realistic chance in winning that title. That, of course, is Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello is the second most experienced driver, starting in 1993 in the Jordan and working his way up through the grid ladder, including racing for teams such as Stewart, Ferrari, Honda, Braun, and Williams in his time in the sport. Just because a leak claims that all the cars are supposedly going to be based off the 2010s, it doesn't mean to say Codemasters are going to completely neglect the older Formula One fans, because at the end of the day, their demographic focus is from 1988 onwards, and Barrichello fits this beautiful mould for fans of the 1990s of Formula One, for the 2000s of Formula One, and for the early 2010s, since he was present and had some noteworthy moments. For example, remember the 2010 Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, in which he was squeezed to the wall by Michael Schumacher? That is just one example. In addition, they've already got 3 classic cars that could arguably be attributed to Rubens Barrichello, even though he was the wingman for 66% of these cars in question seasons. The 2000 Ferrari, 2004 Ferrari, and the 2009 Brawn have all been driven throughout the entirety of those seasons, or at least most of them, by Rubens Barrichello. Cello. Is it cello or cello? How would you all say it? I'd say cello, looking back, but I might be wrong. Who knows? Anyway, here's the first prediction in order to satisfy the more older fans of the sport, whilst also keeping it in line with the 2010s theming. However, another South American who had the inverse, a short and sweet career, if unfruitful, was Juan Pablo Montoya. Yes, I am predicting that the Colombian will be making it into Formula One. He started in 2001, coming up from a stint in IndyCar, which was known as kart back then, and he had a stint from Williams in 2001 till 2004, his classic car being the 2003 Williams FW25, a car which took Williams to second, I want to say, in the constructors' standings, though Montoya was not in the top 2 because Kimi Raikkonen was on fire. However, this is a pure wildcard guess, as he quitted in 2006, halfway through that season, after his relationship with Ron Dennis at McLaren went a little bit sour. So this is a real wild card. But for the 2000s fans, a lot of them love Juan Pablo Montoya. He was honest, straight talking. Some of his icons were legendary, including the famous "Oh dear" radio message, before radios were massively celebrated in the community. And he represents a nation in Formula One. I mean, prior to him, there haven't been any other iconic Colombian Formula One drivers, though I'm sure they exist, and if any of you Formula One nerds would like to share them in the comments below, you may. I'm always happy to be educated. And lastly, I'm predicting as well that we will have another straight-talking individual. If we have some more quiet and reserved characters like Barrichello, Button, and Massa, then Montoya, Schumacher to some extent, and Mark Webber, along with Nico Rosberg, are the more boisterous show people of this iconic collection of drivers. The Aussie is one of those stories that I would describe a bit like Sergio Perez, mostly being trapped in midfield tier machinery, but unlike Perez, the final mid-tier team he went with ended up becoming the kings of the grid. He was a number 2, but started his career in Minardi back in 2002, went to Jaguar in 2003, went to Williams in 2005, before settling at Red Bull for 2007, which was basically the same team as Jaguar, except they had a more organised management structure and had Adrian Newey. Thus, by the time the 2010 season rolled around, the Red Bull RB6 was the fastest car on the grid, and Mark Webber was in realistic contention of winning the championship. Things just didn't go his way, and the Korean Grand Prix didn't really help his chances, if we're being honest. However, he stayed with Red Bull until 2013, where in the season in which there was Multi-21, he decided to retire at the end of the V8 era. And since Red Bull has only got one classic car in the video game roster at the moment, compared to their contemporaries like the Alpine squad, Ferrari, McLaren, and even Williams, who have far more, I have a sneaky suspicion they are going to add another Red Bull. Maybe the 2013 one with that beautiful purple infinity branding merging elegantly into the RB9, I want to say, but please do not murder me, nerds, if I got it wrong. So that is my list. I'm predicting that Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button, Felipe Massa, Nico Rosberg, Rubens Barrichello, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Mark Webber will be the 7 iconic drivers revealed for the deluxe edition and the digital deluxe edition of Formula One 2021's Mighty Mode. You all know what to do. Thank you so much as always, and stay safe, you and all.